Welcome back. I am your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy, and this is the IRS Radio Hour on AM560 the Answer. Joined here with my co-host Jim Leahy, our technical producers Deborah Schreiner. So let's go into the next segment.
It's the blog segment. The blog.
Well, on this welcome to the blog segment where I talk about what's going on in my office. Not a lot going on in the office this week, but what I wanted to talk about, okay, because what I'm doing is I'm trying to help people who may want to look into help solving their own IRS problem. Right? There's lots that you need to know if you're going to do this. One of the things is before you could get to where you want to be, which is a solved IRS problem, a completed problem, solve it. The first thing you got to do to get where you need to be, you got to know where you are now. So that's the first step. The first step is figuring out where you are with the IRS. And one of the ways you do that is you have to ask the IRS for transcripts, and they will give you these transcripts that will detail what they find about you. So, for instance, there's several different types of transcripts. One we call the account transcripts, and this is for every year. They have a separate transcript. So you don't get one. You don't just say, hey, send me a transcript for every year, and they just put it all in one report. They send you this transcript for every year, and it shows when did you file your tax return, how much did you make, what was the tax that year, how was it, how did you pay it, were there any penalties, were there any interest assessed. All of that information is on this account transcript. If you've made payments, if they've taken things away from you, that's all detailed in that transcript. The transcript uses codes that the IRS uses. So they're not that, if you don't have an IRS problem, they're easy to figure out because you can see, here's what my taxes were, here's what I paid, here's what they gave my refund, and it's all on there. But if you have a tax problem, it gets very complicated to try to read these things, these account transcripts. And so you can't figure out where you are unless you know where the IRS says that you are. So you have to figure that out. And another thing that happens when people are behind is that they haven't filed their tax returns. And one reason why they say they haven't filed their tax returns is they don't have the information anymore. It's been 5 years. I moved. I lost the W-2s. I lost the 1099s. I lost all of this information. So I'm kind of I'm kind of stuck. There's nothing I can do.
What are you going to do?
Well, here's what you can do. You can call the IRS and get what they call a wage and income transcript. And this is, again, it's every year. So you ask for, I need the transcript from 2015. And the IRS will send you this transcript. It's the wage and income transcript, which will detail, well, you got a W-2 from this person. You got a 1099 from this organization. Your mortgage company sent this 1098 in. So this is all going to be detailed. Now you can use that information to complete your tax returns. So don't get frozen thinking that you can't get I guess I'm out of it. I don't have the information and there's nothing I can do. There is something you can do. You can get those wage and income transcripts, use them to file your back tax returns and get into compliance. I've talked a lot about compliance on this show. I often tell my clients, I preach compliance because without that one ingredient, that's really the secret ingredient is compliance. And so then you have to figure out, well, how do I get in compliance? And that's what the transcripts are going to help you do. It's going to help you draw that map to figure out where you are to where you want to be, the remedy. How do I solve this problem? Well, again, I got to figure out where I am in the process. And that's where these transcripts come in, to figure out where you are. Okay, there's other kinds of transcripts. There's what they call the return transcript, and that just, again, shows you what was in your return. But if I didn't file a return, I won't get those return transcripts. They won't be on there. And also, another thing that you might find out, that the IRS went ahead and filed a tax return for you. This is called an SFR, or a substitute for return, and that'll be on the account transcript. So I
think that's in one of your pages in your book.
It is in the book. We talk about that, and why that's important is then you know that they've assessed the tax against you. So here's how it works. Before the IRS can come after you and start taking things away from you, there's a process involved before beforehand. The first thing is they can't assess a tax against you unless you have filed a tax return. Well, then you say, well, I just won't file a tax return and then they won't assess it against me. No, what will happen is the IRS will complete your tax return for you. And again, this is the substitute for return, the SFR. And then based on that return, they will assess a tax against you. Now, what I tell people is, you think, well, then I won't do my tax returns. They'll do them for me. This is not a service, right? It's a penalty. They are going to exaggerate what you owe because they're not going to give you deductions that you deserve, and so you're going to pay the highest tax available, and it's going to really exaggerate what you owe. And unless those get challenged, then the IRS now it's been assessed against you. You owe it. Now, you can go back and challenge that amount, but if you don't challenge it correctly, that's what you're going to pay, and they're going to start taking money away from you. And when they start freezing your bank account or garnishing your wages, or if you're in business, going after your clients or your customers, or I've had, for instance, I had a chiropractor, and most of his income came from insurance companies, and he had a list, probably 10 or to 20 different insurance companies that he would get a check from every month. Well, when the IRS garnished him or levied him, they went to all of these insurance companies and said, you can't pay him anymore. You must pay us. Send us the check. So his income dropped to zero because he didn't have any money, because the IRS was sending it. They were sending it to the IRS directly. And this happens. And this is what you're trying to stop. Okay, but when they're starting to collect and you have an SFR, they're collecting that amount that's exaggerated. And that's what they're going to try. And you can throw your hands up and say, well, that's not right. I don't owe that much. But unless you go ahead and fix it, you can go back and amend your it's not really amending of your tax return because you never filed the tax return, but you can file a tax return and override that SFR and get the tax down to something that's reasonable. So I've had people who've had SFRs. They were assessed the tax in the six figures, and by the time we went back and redid them for them, it showed that they had a refund due. Okay, so this can happen for you, but again, you have to challenge it, and the only way you can challenge that is to first know where you are. So that's what the transcripts are for, is to figure out where you are, so you can draw a map to where you want to be, and that's to the remedy to fix the IRS problem, and then keep it fixed.
Just like Chapter 2. How long will it take to end my IRS problem?
That's in my book. Deal with your IRS problem today. A copy you can get at freeirsbook.com. Again, it's freeirsbook.com. You can get a copy.
One more time.
Go there now. freeirsbook.com.
That's right. Opem Tax Resolution is there for you. 312-664-6649. And visit chicagotaxteam.com. It's going to be your hub to help fight the IRS. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned because we're going to have another great segment coming up. We're going to be talking about the Supreme Court, a couple of their rulings that have been going on lately.
Yes.
Get a free copy of your IRS book at freeirsbook.com and come on back here on AM560.
The Answer.